Belgorod is going underwater along with the military. The dam has indeed burst. Moscow is on fire, attack COUP, Putin's escape, and the evacuation of fighter jets. A coup in Russia, Prigozhin's successors. Skabeeva's secret and million-dollar salaries. Trump is angry at Putin and wants to meet with Kim Jong-un. A conscript was abused in a massage parlor. Russians will be required to pay a tithe to the church. Hello everyone, I'm here with you, Karina Klishin, and this is the V-Trender program. I've gathered a lot of interesting news for you, and believe me, we'll have plenty to discuss today. So let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, it really did burst. Bring the boats.
Alive. Now there's no more reservoir.
After 2 days of Ukrainian armed forces attacks on the dam on the Belgorod reservoir, its dam couldn't hold. This is significant damage to a hydraulic structure in Russia. On Sunday night, the water level in the reservoir began to drop, and soon the current broke through. In the area of the village of Grafovka, military positions were flooded. In the Shebekino district, people have already started to get flooded as well. That's it, and that concludes everything.
In the garden.
At first, they had everything under control, but later they began to recommend that locals evacuate. Up to 20 residents have already been evacuated, and this is just the beginning. The flooding became visible from satellite images. But most importantly, Russian Federation units near Volchansk in the Kharkiv region have been cut off from the main forces. The Russian military has suffered losses. Some battalions have almost lost combat readiness, with both provisions and dugouts flooded, as well as some equipment and ammunition. The positions of the units are under threat. The 6th Army of the Russian Federation, the 44th Army Corps, the 128th, 116th, 68th, and 136th Brigades. The Russian offensive in the Kharkiv region has been halted. In response, the Russians began to threaten that they would strike the Kyiv hydroelectric power plant and that retaliation would come soon.
Oreshnik, Burevestnik, Yars, Kinzhal. And all of this right here. Let there be good.
Moreover, even the scum decided to speak out, not even understanding what consequences there might be. Pay attention to his opponent's reaction.
Excuse me, but I don't understand why the Kyiv dam is still standing. I honestly don't get it. I believe we need to move to a position of the harshest punishment. Listen, they're pounding Belgorod and we're trying to spare Kyiv. They won't understand our nobility. So what is it now, the 3rd day, the 2nd day? Something is burning in Kyiv. But they still think they're going to defeat us now. And over there, Budanov, sly as a fox, is speculating about what will happen to the Crimean bridge. And if we blow up the dam to hell, then he'll have to speculate about what will happen to Kyiv.
What a fabulous idiot. Why did they even let him out of the hospital?
Budanov, sly as a fox? Well, we're counting the days until the scum meets Kobzon.
Hello, hello, my dearest and most cherished friend. I am so glad to see you.
It's amazing that Skabeeva hasn't commented yet. But it seems she has more important things to do, like buying new curtains, fixing up the kitchen, buying carpets. Because the income of the propagandist and her husband Popov has increased by 1.5 times, and they bought themselves an elite mansion. The couple became the owners of a house in the Navakova cottage settlement on the Novorizhskoye highway, worth 150 million rubles. The house has 4 bedrooms each with its own bathroom, a swimming pool, a living room, an office, a kitchen dining room, a laundry room, and a wood-fired sauna. Skabeeva receives about 1.8 million rubles a month. Popov's income is also higher now than before, about 1.3 million rubles a month from the Rossiya TV channel, plus about 500,000 a month from his salary as a State Duma deputy and additional income from the Tsunami Society and an advertising agency. Besides the dam, Russians were also seriously affected by the nighttime attack. Ukrainian drones flew in there. In total, up to 200 drones were in Russia, 40 of them targeting Moscow. Air defense systems were deployed throughout the city, especially near the Kremlin. But in some places, people had to fend off the drones by shouting because the guys just can't handle it. Of course, everything is under control there and everything has been shot down. But for some reason, an oil depot near Moscow is on fire. Moreover, aircraft were urgently evacuated from bases near Moscow. Strategic bombers were also evacuated from the Engels airfield. Russia was moving them out of harm's way. As it turned out, in this way, Ukrainian forces prevented a Russian attack from Engels on Ukrainian cities since the bombers were already armed. Bravo! I know that many of you are watching us from outside Ukraine, and I'm curious, which country are you watching this video from? I know there are a lot of people from Europe here, and even from Russia. Do you support the Russian Federation, or are you one of the reasonable ones? Write in the comments. I'd be interested to know where you're watching from and your thoughts on what's happening. And do you remember yesterday I talked about how Putin boasted about the new nuclear missile, the Burevestnik? The very same unparalleled one that flies 14 kilometers. Well, Trump responded to such bold statements from Putin. The American president put the braggart in his place, saying there's no point in boasting about testing a missile with a nuclear engine when American nuclear submarines are already patrolling off Russia's shores.
Tested a new missile that can travel over 8,000 kilometers. Is this saber-rattling to you? What is it? They know that
we have nuclear submarines, the greatest in the world, right in their waters. So, I mean, it doesn't have to go 8,000 kilometers. They don't mess with us. We don't mess with them. We test missiles all the time. But, you know, we have submarines, nuclear submarines. We don't have to go 8,000 kilometers.
How ironic, he emphasized that they wanted to wage the war for a week, or more precisely, for 2 or 3 days, but it's already approaching its 4th year. But then, he immediately spoke up. Peskov said that Russia is guided by its own national interests. Supposedly, their interest is to defend themselves from Europe. And they say such Burevestnik tests have nothing in them that could strain relations between Washington and Moscow. But it seems that Moscow did get tense after Trump's words. Because later, Trump stated that he would like to meet with Kim Jong-un. He said that if Kim wants to meet, he will be waiting for him in South Korea. The Kremlin's geostrategist dropped the ball. By the way, Putin himself seems ready to end this war. According to Russian media, citing Lavrov, Putin is ready to accept the concept for ending the war in Ukraine proposed by the White House. The US concept is a freeze along the front line. According to him, there has been no direct response from the US to this proposal. Trump himself claims that the war between Russia and Ukraine will end soon. Well, we want to believe in that. By the way, in order to soften Trump and, so to speak, establish contact, Dmitriev gave Trump a box of chocolates with Putin's face on it. Great words from a great man. Inside are chocolates wrapped in Putin's quotes. You have to strike first, borders never end, the fewer teeth you have, the more you love porridge, and other such nonsense. Dmitriev called this a gift as part of the Russia-US dialogue. What a disgrace. Maybe that's why their conversations aren't working out. Friends, what do you think of this approach to Trump? You can share your opinion in the comments. You know I'm always here, I read all the comments, and I also reply. Let's continue the conversation below the video. And don't forget to like this video to support the regular release of content. By the way, Putin really might back down, because he started to get scared. According to journalists from the British Telegraph, citing sources in the Kremlin, Putin is afraid of a coup in Russia due to the growing weakness of the regime. There is a growing sense of vulnerability in the Kremlin, and the fear of a coup has become an obsession for Putin. According to the publication, the FSB has already accused members of the Russian anti-war committee of attempting a violent seizure of power, which experts call true. This is seen as a manifestation of a new wave of Kremlin paranoia. Analysts note that the authorities are trying to discredit the opposition and portray the West as responsible for internal problems in order to distract the public from growing instability. The publication recalls that the Wagner mutiny in 2023 was the first alarming signal, revealing just how fragile Putin's power vertical is. The Russian Orthodox Church is also fueling the fire of disaster and instability in Russia. The Church insists that without them there would be no victories on the front lines. Therefore, as Russians themselves write, citing sources close to Patriarch Kirill, soon, as a sign of gratitude, all Russians will begin paying a tithe to the Russian Church.
I can give you a telling example. At a meeting, Vladimir Vladimirovich was informed about the successes of our army near Krasnoarmeysk and Kupiansk. We were holding special prayer services for the offensive, for the advance of our troops. So I can say with confidence, without us, there would have been no successes at the front. Can anyone really argue that such a church deserves to be paid a tithe? I think even those who don't understand the necessity of such a measure will have to pay it.
This could be up to 10% of Russians' income. The church revolution is already kicking the door open. But in my opinion, we need to act more harshly, just like Lukashenko. He even started threatening the students and telling them not to set themselves up for a big...
The salary offered for this position is truly outstanding, providing a level of financial compensation that exceeds expectations. This is absolutely brilliant, as it reflects the value and recognition given to the role.
So that life doesn't seem like a piece of cake?
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
But as long as the last church hasn't taken all your money, you can still go get a massage. But if you make an appointment, it's better to clarify what exactly full relaxation means. A Russian soldier decided to get a massage to fix his back after an injury. But he confused a normal massage parlor with the kind everyone knows about. Instead of a therapeutic procedure, he got an 18+ experience.
She poured that oil all over me again, started stroking everything. I relaxed, and eventually I just passed out. I blacked out. I wake up and I can't understand what's going on. I open my eyes and she is doing indecent things with her hands.
I was tempted by a queen, but I didn't give in, I swear.
But instead of pleasure, the man got scared. Moreover, he turned to law enforcement for help. But the administrators claim that they operate within the bounds of decency. And now, not so much news as a joke. Rock bottom. Even members of United Russia are now being targeted by scammers in the country's most secure messenger. State Duma Deputy Maxim Ivanov complained that scammers contacted him via Max, pretending to be employees of the management company. Of course, they wanted to gain access to his accounts, but the deputy turned out to be smarter. A little bit.
Scammers called Max pretending to be from the management company. They asked how many keys he needed for the intercom. He said 18. They hung up. The more ridiculous your answer, the faster the scammers bailed. For your information.
The irony is that it's this national messenger that officials promote as a reliable and GOST-certified alternative to Telegram. And finally, a bitter realization from a Russian resident. The realization that China is taking advantage of all of Russia's riches, while Russians in places like Zabaikalsky Krai remain as poor as ever. Attention, you won't see this on TV.
The Chinese have long been saying Lake Baikal is ours. I say, well, soon they'll be saying Crimea is ours too. I keep asking the same question everywhere. I write about it. What are our boys fighting for? So that they can walk around here comfortably while the Chinese stroll through Branko. Why do these people need this? Where have you ever seen Russians or any Russian organization extracting anything in China? There's no such thing. But here, our land is leased out for 45 to 50 years. They already use all our resources: gold, coal, oil, gas, everything. It's a world power while we live in poverty.
They just presented us with a fait accompli. The road will go right through agricultural land. They have no intention of changing the project. Such unique nature, the pearl of our Transbaikal region, and yet such barbaric, insane treatment. And most importantly, if you're going to mine coal, then mine it for local needs. But they have grand plans to start coal mining for China. Money has poisoned them, clouded their minds.